So today I'm going to share with you one of the most powerful mystical experiences I've had in my life. It lasted for years, and I explained it in another video. I think I called that video uh, like Kundalini Awaken, or the symptoms of my Kundalini awakening, something like that. But in 2016, I was walking outside. I had never studied spirituality or meditated in my life. And I was outside, and all of a sudden I felt this egg on top of my head crack. I didn't know it existed at the time. It's called the cosmic egg. It cracked, and I felt the descent of grace and the cracking of the cosmic egg, like this warm liquid, pour over my body and explode out of every cell of my being. And I knew that I was eternal, that I was pure love. And what I felt like, I can only describe as nuclear love. Nuclear love. And I could hear nuclear love, and I could hear it and see it in every form. And life and everything in it was so ecstatically beautiful. And all I could see was beauty, perfection, and love in everything. And it was interesting because after a few days of being in this state, I decided to test it, because I was like, first of all, I was a little bit afraid of turning on music because everything was so orgasmic and ecstatic that I didn't think that I'd be able to handle music. But what I found about music was really interesting. And what I found is what I'm going to share in this video was that I was unable to see flaws. I was unable to hear flaws. I was unable to dislike. That's the right word. I was unable to dislike. And I would change the radio stations and just test it. Like music that I typically disliked, I couldn't dislike. Like reggaeton is not music that I typically like, but I heard the perfection in it. And I heard the perfection in the gospel music. I heard the perfection in the screamo. I heard the perfection in the pop, it was like I was completely enamored and in awe of every form. And I remember going to my office. At the time I was an attorney, and using a highlighter. And I was just awestruck by the color of the highlighter, and like gliding it across the paper felt like the most ecstatic. Everything felt ecstatic. Walking down the stairs, going in the elevator, highlighting a paper, feeling emotions. Every human being, like I couldn't see flaws. I couldn't see it. And I was in that consciousness was looking out of my eyes almost constantly for years. And then it took a turn into cleaning out my mind, my chakra system, which has been going on for the last, I don't know how many years, maybe since 2018 or 19. So I don't know what's going to happen next. And I still feel that way, but it has not been as nearly as emphatic as it was then. But what I want to drive home in this video is that I believe that what was looking out of my eyes, I don't believe, I know what was looking out of my eyes was the pure energy of God. And maybe I can't say the pure, because I don't think the human vessel could quite take all of that. But I know when people say spiritual eyes see no flaws, God sees everything as perfect. I know by my experience, by gnosis, by experience, I know for a fact that that's true. So here's the problem. The ego, pretty much universally, believes that it's not good enough for that love. It doesn't deserve that love, needs to be perfect and sinless to deserve that love, needs to punish itself to deserve that love. And so when we do things like shadow work, if you have a really strong masochist in your personality, you can use shadow work as a way to berate yourself. Some people call that shameful shadow work, right? It's driven by shame. It's driven by self-loathing. It's just another way that the ego keeps you small. And I've noticed this, and I pointed it out in my last couple of videos, that when you hear people like, it's one thing to not want to say out loud a negative thing about another person. That's a very good thing to want, right? To not say evil speech, to not blame. But when people are very tight about that, and they're so like, well, I won't point out that that person's like has that quality because I have it too. Because if you spot it, you got it, which is untrue. It's not true. The world is not a perfect mirror. It's either a mirror or a trigger, right? So if you notice that someone's, a pedophile, you feel it, you sense it. Does that mean you're a pedophile? No. That means you have discernment. If it upsets you, if it greatly upsets you, it could be a message from your soul that you need to advocate for that cause. It can mean that you kill your own innocence in some way, right? But it's not a perfect mirror. But I hear people who are in the wellness space who are so careful about sentences of blame, and just the energy that they're in, I can tell that their allergy to victim consciousness is really, it's a way that their ego keeps them small. So yeah, we should want not to have victim consciousness. But if I'm all day long pointing out, like if you've been in a series of abusive relationships, you might need to say out loud and point out patterns in other people, for the sheer reason that you need to understand what inside of you attracts qualities in those people. First, you have to name it and call a spade a spade. Oh yes, this person tends to use me for my body. This person wants me as their entertainment, but they don't really want me in any real lasting way. Okay, if I attract those people, I'll say it out loud. And so I need to understand what inside of me invites that. What's the honey that attracts the bee? It's very important to understand yourself, to be able to say out loud and to let yourself be upset. Because if you have lifetimes or eons of being a doormat or taking abuse, and you finally thaw out of that frozen trauma state and you realize what you've been doing to yourself, you're going to feel angry, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel a lot of things, and you're going to want to vent about it. So my point in this, though, is saying that shadow work, the purpose of shadow work is to bring all of ourselves back into our hearts. So if you are a doormat, and if you have been on the receiving end of a lot of abuse, you want to take that part of you, the masochist, the part of you that feels undeserving, the part of you that feels that they deserve to be punished. And you want to look at that. You want to literally, through the power of observation, you want to observe that part of you through God's eyes, which is, it's okay. You're perfect the way you are. You've done nothing wrong. You thought that you had to punish yourself to gain my love, and that was just an illusion. I love you anyway. I love you anyway. And literally bring that part back into your heart. But my bottom line here is, it's really good to be proactive and to want to evolve and to admit to ourselves when we are reactive, unconscious, unkind. And the reactivity and the unkindness is a symptom of a deeper thing, of a part of yourself that you haven't accepted and loved, of a life that you're not living, that you won't let yourself live. So if we really understand that, and we really truly meditate on, like, God sees no flaws, like God is not judging you. You don't have to prove how good at shadow work you are to get good things in your life. You are already worthy, whether you've worked on yourself or not. I heard a really powerful statement the other day. I went to an event, a Kabbalah event, and the teacher said, even if you are the worst person in the world, God would still want to give you everything: fulfillment, love, a soulmate. And that makes me cry because it reminds me of like how I was seeing the world through those eyes. And that is the truth. Like, you're already worthy. Worthiness, you don't have to pray to be worthy. You don't have to meditate to be worthy. You don't have to do anything to be worthy. You're already worthy. God already loves you totally, totality. God loves you totally. So if you want to be like God, which is how we evolve, you have to love the parts of yourself in that totality. The angry parts, the dissociated parts, the masochistic parts, the sadistic parts, the parts that feel that they need to punish themselves, the tyrannical parts, the snobby parts, whatever, all of those things are lovable, right? If the right consciousness is observing them. But if self-work is not expanding your life, it's not making you more abundant, it's not creating more love in your life, it's because it's the motivation for it is actually self-punishment. That's a really good inventory to take in your life. Is my awareness of myself leading to more lightness, more joy, more love in my life, more loving relationships? Because the world is holographic. If I have a loving relationship to myself, I would no longer be attracted at all to something that wants to hurt me. I might see it through God's eyes and accept it, but I wouldn't want to ingest it in my life, right? So that's the big clue. If there's still a lot in your life that is disrespectful, if you are deeply unfulfilled, if you are deeply anxious, right, and you are doing a lot of work on yourself, there's a good chance that the work that you're doing is motivated by self-hatred. And the way to end that is to take every part of yourself that you judge the most, look it in the eyes through God's eyes, your inner God's eyes, and invite it totally back into your heart. It's okay. You didn't know I was here. You didn't know unconditional love was here for you. So you had to control, manipulate, seduce, and do all the things that the ego does. And the most important relationship that we need to have in life is the relationship with the God within us. And everything stems from the way we feel about ourselves. So if I can see all of the fractured pieces of myself with unconditional love, the part of me that felt she had to grovel for love, the part that thought she needed to punish herself to get into heaven, the part that thought she needed to be some kind of perfect to deserve good things. It's okay. Of course that's what you thought. It's okay. That's what the ego thinks. Because the original wound is separation, and after we realized we were separate from God, we felt ashamed and we felt guilty, and that manifests in the personality as punishing ourselves for it, feeling chronically guilty because that's some form of penance that will get us back into God's good graces, when the truth is that God's just looking at you right now completely in love with you, and that God is inside of you and you can see yourself that way. So I highly recommend, if you've suffered from self-hatred, if you feel like you're your own slave driver, if you're a perfectionist, right, and you feel that it's stressing you out, please do look in the mirror and tell yourself, I want to see myself through God's eyes. God made me perfect. I want to see myself through God's eyes. I want to see myself through the Creator's eyes. Meditate deeply. Like the more sincere you are about what you desire, the more it manifests. So you can't just say like, okay, I want to love myself and I want to see myself through God's eyes. You have to be so tired of self-harm, self-punishment, the deadly symptoms of perfection, or trying to be perfect. You have to be so tired of it that your sincerity of your desire to have affinity of form with that creator who has unconditional love for you has to be very intense and very real. And say it out loud all day long. I want to see myself through the creator's eyes. The creator made me perfect. I want to see myself through the creator's eyes. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful day.